Earlier this year, I set out to challenge myself to find truly great gear that came in at a modest budget, like $500 to $600 for my full backpacking kit and setup. And I set out to Amazon, which is one of the most common places that we all shop when we're looking for good deals. I come from a background where I've had the luxury of using the most expensive, most premium gear, so diving into budget gear has been a bit of a learning curve. But it's been super fun because I've actually truly enjoyed this challenge, and best of all is that I found some actually great gear that comes in at a totally reasonable budget. So today on the video, I want to break down my biggest wins of this series. I've done 3 different iterations, multiple different backpacking trips, trying out a bunch of gear, and I've found that there are some things that really hold up. All right, I'm gonna clear the table out just a little bit. This is the Featherstone Granite Tent, and this is a tent that inspired me so much that I dedicated a whole video just to breaking down this tent. This is a $109 tent, and it's the Featherstone Granite 2-person tent. Both positive and negative. I posted a video and immediately the tent sold out on Amazon, which super cool. I messaged the company to see when it might be back in stock, and apparently it's gonna be back in stock within a week or 2 of this video publishing. This tent is probably my favorite tent in terms of overall design. So something that I've really liked about this tent is actually how much mesh there is on it. This actually allowed for a lot of really good visibility. You can see the trees and you can see the landscape out through here. This is a 20 denier sil nylon 2000 millimeter hydrostatic rainfly. The Featherstone tent, again, surprises me with the quality of its rainfly. There are some drawbacks to pretty much all of this gear, and the definite drawback to this particular tent is going to be the weight. Now, it is around a 4-pound tent. So that's pretty heavy for most backpackers, especially experienced backpackers who really do want to go on long, hard missions, doing lots of miles in a day, tough terrain. I actually took this on one of my most challenging trips that I've done. It all really worked. Where I went up to the Alpine Lakes Wilderness with Miranda and Rainer. Miranda Goes Outside, if you follow them on YouTube. Backpacked across it for 5 days and really actually loved the tent, except for it was, rather heavy. But in terms of design, in terms of spaciousness, I figured that this was a beautiful, wonderful tent and would suit a lot of people who are getting into backpacking, wanting to find a good tent that's going to be a good, budget. Obviously, $109 is an exceptionally budget-priced tent, but also just having a tent that will be great for doing 6 to 8 mile trips and maybe 2 to 3 days at a time, which is, I think, where most of the backpackers in the world are. But because I did want to lighten my load up a little bit, while still seeing if I could stay on a budget, I found another tent that I actually think might suit more core backpackers even just a little bit better. This is the Ampex 2-person backpacking tent. There's quite a few things that I actually really do like about this tent, and just a silly, simple thing is just how the tent is packed. That I just really like over these, say, tube sacks that you just stuff it all in. You can even compress it down a little bit if you feel like making it smaller, compressible. Now this tent shaves about 1 pound off of the Featherstone tent, and that's pretty meaningful difference. So it's a roughly 3 pound, 3 pound 4 ounce tent once you ditch some of the things like the footprint, which is something that I basically never carry on any backpacking trip. And it also came with 16 stakes. So I pared that down to 8 stakes. And between that, I was pretty much hovering at around a 3 pound 4 ounce tent, which I think is pretty good. If you look on Amazon, at least as of the moment that I'm filming this, the list price is something really weird and high, like $270. But I bought it for $150, and the price should be returning to $150. And also I found it on multiple other sites like Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops still for $150. So if this tent is one that you're interested in, don't pay more than $150. The thing that I really liked about this tent is it just had cool design. It had a lot of organizational features inside the tent. There's some different places to hang lanterns or something like that if you wanted to. There's actually a mystery string over here. I have no idea what this is for, but there's extra pockets. There's good Good organization added in here. Extra pockets up here. I'm very impressed. There's like lots of thoughtful details in this tent. I loved the big double doors. It reminded me a lot of the Big Agnes Copper Spur, which is a very expensive, very nice tent. This is essentially the budget version of the Copper Spur. So I think that it's a big win, and at $150 for being a roughly 3-pound tent, I think that's extremely competitive, and I really think that this one is going to hold up for a lot of people who are probably just a little bit more aggressive with their backpacking. Still probably like medium aggressiveness, like not like the ultralight crowd. Yeah, if that's you, you should be going for more premium, even more lightweight tents. But for just like the general backpacking crowd, this one I think is actually surprisingly good. Okay, let's talk about sleeping mattresses. I'm a little hesitant to talk too highly of this mattress. This is the Climate Static V. This is the second one that I picked up. The first one I did the uninsulated version, which was like a $30 or $40 mattress. They're both about the same level of comfort, but the insulation really does make a big difference. And this is, again, like, to me, kind of bottom of the barrel for comfort on air mattresses. But what I think is great is that if you are coming from a world in which you buy the closed cell foam mattresses and that's all you sleep on, those to me are just really not very comfortable. The insulation value is pretty minimal, around 2. If you're hesitant to spend a lot of money on an air mattress, but you want an elevated comfort experience, this is a good place to go. And this is, I think, selling right now for like $75, $80. I've got another mattress that I think is 10 times more comfortable, but the price is higher. One of the things that I truly think people should spend their money on is mattresses. So that's where I am a little hesitant to say, oh yeah, this is such a great mattress. But for the budget, for the price, for what you get, it's actually pretty good. Climate Static V, if you're looking to upgrade off of a closed cell foam mattress, then I think this is a good step up. But if you're willing to spend just like a little bit more money, then I would absolutely go for the Flextail Zero mattress. So I've actually been trying 2 of their mattresses, and this one is the Flextail Zero, the wide and rectangular version. And I thought that it was like extremely comfortable, like a very comfortable, warm mattress. 5.6 R value. I think this is part of why I was warm last night. Good insulation in between me and the ground. I actually really like these vertically oriented baffles. Some people don't like them, but I find them to be very comfortable to lay on. And then these outside rails, if you will, or bumpers, stick out or stick up just a little bit extra. So they're kind of like bumpers on a bowling lane that they kind of keep you in the middle, which is, I find, was really actually quite nice. The downside was, one, for the price, it's like $140, $150, to where it's almost in that price point where you might as well get a $200 mattress that I think is like really super premium. So the price difference wasn't quite a big enough savings for me to be like, yeah, that's the one. But from a comfort and a functionality standpoint, it's excellent. A little bit bulky, but this is the same mattress, just the like 21-inch wide instead of 25-inch wide, and it's got a tapered bottom to it. But the benefit is that you actually save not only quite a bit of bulk, but also weight. This one is actually quite a bit lighter. That means that between the price, this is $120, whereas this is like $149, I believe. This is truly where it's like, oh, that's still a nice budget price. It's about half the price of this like series of air mattresses that I've got behind me that are all in the $190 to $250 range. The downside to these, I think, one is bulk. They're just a little bit more bulky than some of the newer air mattresses that are coming on the market. And then there's one other thing, is that they don't come with an air sac, like the way to inflate it. Certainly what Flextail will want you to do is to get the Pump Zero, which is a 1.2 ounce air pump. And I do think that this, for a lot of people, is a great deal. But if you buy this and this, I think it's like $170. And yeah, that's pretty great. But at that price, when you're buying the two together, then it's almost like, well, just spend $30 more and get something that's like a truly great ultralight mattress. This mattress is definitely lighter than the Climate Static V. If somebody's looking for a good mattress that they can backpack, be very comfortable, be very warm with without spending a lot of money, it's the mummy-shaped Flextail R0 mattress. All right, let's bust out some backpacks. This backpack was actually a pretty big surprise for me. This is the Nevo Rhino 65-liter backpack. I was very doubtful that this backpack was gonna be worth anything, and I spent $78, I believe $80 on it. It turned out to be actually rather good. The thing that made it stand out to me was actually the way that they did this back panel. It's very comfortable and there's a lot of airflow. They could improve this by just bringing this angle in a little bit. Like, this is a huge aggressive angle to keep the weight off your back. Some of the things that I thought that were great about it is that it had a lot of the things that I look for in more expensive backpacks. It's got organizational features, it's got different ways to pack it, different ways to access it. I like having this extra mesh pocket. I like having the organization on the lid and the brain. This is actually a pretty big sleeping bag compartment, and then the ability to store multiple things actually down below. So you can have the tent down below, which is more ideal rather than up here because it'll sit further away from your body. But if you had like a Z accordion or a foam pad or something really light, you could also store that here under these clips. So where this backpack is gonna show some of its flaws is that when you start getting a heavy backpack into the, say, 32, 35 pound range, then this backpack becomes pretty uncomfortable in my opinion. It did great in the like 25 to 30, 31 pound range. And then when I did do a trip where it was just a little bit heavier, I did definitely notice that it was not as comfortable. That being said, if you are going to be backpacking with like 32 pounds or less, then I think that this is a great backpack. A very comparably priced backpack that I think is also worth mentioning is the Teton Sports Hiker 3700. And this is about I think like a 60-ish, 62, 63 liter backpack. I used this one and was pretty surprised. I thought it held up better with heavier weight. I carried definitely more weight in this backpack. And what you see is this back panel definitely has a structure that I think is better suited to heavier loads. Between the two, if I'm carrying 30 pounds, 25 to 30 pounds, I prefer the Nevo Rhino. But if I'm carrying 35 pounds, I'm definitely preferring the Teton Sports Hiker 3700. I just think that there's a little bit more comfort focused for the heavier loads. And I think it held up better at the heavier weight. But the overall backpack is a little bit heavier. And I think what that will also potentially mean is that I think it might be a little bit more of a durable backpack too. This backpack cost me $78. And I'm really genuinely surprised that I could find gear, a backpack that is under $100 that feels like something that people could really backpack with. Both of these backpacks are more catering towards beginner backpackers. And if you are an advanced or an intermediate backpacker, then I would probably say, again, if you can save the money, spend more like $150 to $200 and you can get some really excellent backpacks. I gotta give a big shout out and a thank you to Element for sponsoring this video. Since I've been using Element, I have noticed a huge increase in my performance on the trail when I'm hiking. This is something that I take easily once or twice a day on a backpacking trip when I'm sweating a lot, losing a lot of electrolytes. Using one of these to replenish my salts has made a huge difference. And the ways in which I really feel that is that I don't have the sleeplessness, the fatigue, the muscle aches. When I throw one of these into a bottle of water, I definitely feel better. And right now, if you want to get a free sample pack with any purchase, just go to the link below at drinkelement.com/erichanson. That's DRINKLMNT.com/erichanson. And you can get a free sample pack. And inside is 8 of Element's most popular flavors so that you can see which one is your favorite. And I was just talking to somebody the other day who's bought this multiple times, and it's not just for first-time buyers. Like anybody buying, if you're recurringly making these purchases, they'll just keep sending you these sample packs. So you basically get free bonuses on your purchases. Big thanks to Element for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to talking about some gear. Let's go back to sleep systems a little bit, and I wanna go to a sleeping bag that I think was probably one of the more pleasant surprises of my overall gear selection. This sleeping bag is from Aegis Max, and this one is so good, I'm gonna fully open it up. First, it's got a color that I think is really just worth showing off once again. This is a color that's called Very Perry, and basically it's a purple. I really liked this double zipper. And one of the reasons why I liked the double zipper is if it's warmer out, you can just use this like a blanket or like a duvet cover. It's got 800 fill power down inside, so it's a very light, very compressible sleeping bag. The downside was, if pun intended, is that it is a little crinkly. So it's not in my favorite fabric texture. I think that there are some softer, more fabrics that feel a little bit nicer against your skin. But this was a very warm sleeping bag, and it was also a very compressible, very lightweight sleeping bag. This cost me $170, and I think since I made the video, this one sold out. Now you can get the larger version, which is the same exact sleeping bag, just with a few extra inches of headroom, which is actually kind of nice because the downside, I'm 5'11" and like 7/8. So I like to call myself 6 feet tall, but I'm technically not 6 feet tall. This sleeping bag was just a little bit small for me. Like just by such a small amount, I definitely fit inside of it, but I wanted just a little bit extra room. So if I were to be doing this again, I would have gotten the long version of it, which I think is like $10 or $15 more, unfortunately. Got a little floating down feather in here. Is certainly more like a bag that a budget conscious ultralight backpacker could get and use and think is like a pretty nice sleeping bag. To save a little bit more money, I found the Kelty Cosmic 20-degree sleeping bag. This isn't filled with quite as a premium down. This is 550 filled down in here, which basically just means to achieve the equivalent warmth rating, they need to put more down in it, and that just makes it a little bit heavier bag. So they're both the same in terms of warmth performance. This one just requires a little bit more down to get there. So it's a little bit bulkier of a bag and a little bit heavier of a bag. Some of the things that I like about it is it has a more pleasant texture, and it's from Kelty, which is, I believe, an American company. And one of the things that I do like about that is that they have, at least they advertise ethically sourced down. Now, is that just marketing hype? I don't know, but I do like to be able to see on some level that the company has some of these like manufacturing ethics and sourcing ethics. Some of these other companies, it's just hard to know. And that doesn't mean that they're unethical. It just means that they're harder to track. And so it's a little bit more difficult to know one way or the other as a consumer what you are supporting or not supporting. I found this to be a really standard good sleeping bag, and I think that this one cost me, I spent $130, but I got it on sale, and I think the consistent normal price is $160. But this is a great sleeping bag for, again, people who are getting into backpacking, people who are going to be camping, people who are going to be backpacking, and the thought of spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a sleep kit is just kind of a bridge too far. It's just too much. For most people who are getting out for the, standard 3-season, spring, summer, fall adventures, mostly on the more casual end, not super aggressive, this is a great sleeping bag. Now I've got a little pile of goodies over here. This stove right here is the Camping Moon XD2F. And again, I've done a video pretty much just on this stove. You can see on the wall behind me, potentially it might be a little bit out screen, but I have a wall of stoves. And I actually really like and kind of geek out about stoves. And this particular one has been probably my favorite gear find out of everything that I've been doing here with this Amazon gear purchases. This I originally bought for $32, and I think the price has gone up a few dollars to like $36, $37, but still it is an exceptional stove. And this is extremely similar to the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe or the Soto Windmaster. In fact, I find it to be kind of a really nice crossover between the two, taking some of the best concepts of both of those stoves. I've been using this on pretty much every backpacking mission for the last 6 months, 5-6 months, and I just keep getting more and more impressed with it. Some things that I love about it is this piezo click igniter. It's got a really clean, easy start, works just every time that I've been using it. This one is my top winner. It's $37, but if you want to go and save a little bit more money, well, there is an option, and this is something that I've actually been using for actually a couple years now, but this is the BRS 3000, and this is kind of an ultralighter's classic. This stove costs like 17, 18 bucks. One of the standard ultralight thru hiker stoves for a good while now. I spent about 2 years using it. I just took it on my last trip and I was reminded of how much I'm fond of this little dinky stove. This is a 1 ounce stove. You get some serious weight savings and size savings, and I really do love what it does. It doesn't have a piezo igniter, so you gotta bring a lighter with you. But in terms of just general simplicity, cost effectiveness, it's really hard to beat this BRS stove. But if you do wanna go even cheaper, I have an option for you. And this stove is the AO2 stove. This was the first stove that I picked up for this Amazon Gear Challenge, and I was actually quite surprised with it. The price has actually dropped since the first time I did it. It was a $13 stove, and now it's a $10 stove. It's a similar size. It's actually a little bit heavier than the Camping Moon, so it's a little bit more dense, mostly in this connection element and the piezo igniter element. Certainly a good stove that people can really camp and backpack with, but what I have found is that this is the least stable. These pot supports are pretty narrow, and they're just a little bit more flimsy. That being said, for $10, it is about as cheap a stove as you can get, and I find it to be actually quite suitable. So if you're just trying to get the cheapest, absolute cheapest stove you can, the AO2 stove is actually surprisingly functional. Overall, I gotta say, this Camping Moon, I'm so fond of it. The quality of the build is just exceptional. The stability, the wind resistance that it has with this design on the cup is just very, very good. Just as a quick example, you gotta see how smooth this is. I mean, it's like butter, baby. This is the Toaks 750 milliliter titanium pot. Now, this has been a classic. This has been around for thru hikers and backpackers for a long time. It's very cheap. It's $26, and it is one of the most simple, just functional pots you could ask for. This particular setup, the Camping Moon and the Toaks pot, has been like, yeah, that's just what I backpack with now. $26 for this, $37 for the stove, and it's got my favorite setup. But if you are looking for other options and for some more budget pricing, there's some great options out there too. Now, I do need to go back in time and talk about the redemption of the Nightcore. This is the Nightcore NU33, and I took this on the first backpacking trip I took it on, and it failed me. Something glitched out, and I don't know what happened there. So I gave this a failing grade in one of my sort of recent gear videos. However, I've been trying to figure out if this headlamp is actually faulty or if it just had a weird glitch and then it was gonna resume working. I've now been using it for 2 more backpacking trips with great success. And I actually have become really fond of this headlamp. This is a $50 headlamp, so it is slightly more pricey than the NU25, which I'll get to in just a second. What this does is it has 700 lumens of power here. That is a beam. What I also like is that it has different modes. You've got kind of this more like mellow, diffused light mode over here. You've also got the red light mode, which is great for being around camp, cooking. Red light doesn't attract bugs nearly as much. You keep your night vision, you can look at the stars. If you need to be navigating or mountain climbing like I was, then you can, use it to get across some tricky terrain, really bump up that beam. You can light up a mountain with this headlamp. And for 50 bucks, that's a good price. It's not exceptionally cheap, but to me, I actually prefer the Nightcore over, say, even the Black Diamond or the Petzl options. Some of these really classic headlamp options that are out there, I found this from Amazon to be my preferred headlamp. I actually think that the NU25, the slimmed down version, is probably the best headlamp for most backpackers out there. It is super, super light. I would bring it out right now, but it happens to be in some mystery box somewhere. And from all of the backpacking trips I've been going on in the last few months, that one has inconveniently disappeared. I will just use the B-roll that I have of it. This is a 400 lumen headlamp that I bought for $36. Now this is a pretty impressive headlamp. If you've been around the ultralight backpacking community, this is one that definitely shows up. One of the things that I really like about it is that it has this very minimal headlamp cord. And then you've got multiple different brightnesses, 3 different brightnesses, spotlight mode, flood mode, and red light mode. Compared to the NU33 is that it is a lot more slim and lightweight. And so I think that, you know, getting that price down, getting even the weight down even is pretty impressive. So I absolutely think the NU25 is a fantastic headlamp and might be one of my favorite headlamps overall, especially for just regular light adventure backpacking trips. Let's talk about another thing that sort of failed me, but I've been able to kind of get back off the ground. This is the Nock Vecto 3-liter bag here. This sprung a leak on my second backpacking trip with it. I'm not sure exactly what happened, whether it was user error, but I was able to actually repair it. Now, you can't see the repair because I used this seam seal, which kind of is like a rubber cement type glue, and it has actually held up. So even when pressing and forcing water through a water filter, that seam has held up. So, but I have just been really fond of this style water bag, just the ease with filling it up. You got this big way to fill up the water here, and then you've got another thing that you can connect, either like a Sawyer Squeeze or a Be Free. This is $27, $28. And if I were, again, to do this one again, I might get the Nock Vecto X, which is the step up in durability, and test that one out. But I think that this is such a nice bag, and for the price, like I just really like what this is, and I use it on pretty much all my backpacking trips now as well. Another little thing here is the Yuko Spork. Now this is something that I've been using for a long time. This was $8 on Amazon, and this is absolutely my favorite little camp item. Deep spoon if you want to be going into those big full bags of backpacking food without getting your knuckles covered in food. At $8, this is my favorite little camp spoon. And of course, what's helpful too, you've got a knife that is decently functional for being a plastic knife. And then what's also helpful is you can share. If somebody in your group forgot their spork or spoon or whatever, you can, if you feel comfortable with that, share, and you've got kind of multiple utensils here. I've been literally using this spork combo for probably 4 years, and still held up, still going strong, and I'm a big fan of that. My other favorite camp cup is also from Yuko. Unfortunately, it disappeared on a recent backpacking trip, which I lent it out, and it didn't make it back.
Cheers. Cheers. Woo.
We have the same cup. So we have bonded on this trip.
I bought this through Eric Hanson's affiliate links in the description below.
But seriously, go there.
It's my favorite cup.
It's a great one. Mm-hmm. I think it is tops for like budget camp cups.
Yeah, cheap. Pack small.
Yep.
And the dark bottom hides dirt well, so when you're pouring your coffee in, you don't have to see all that.
You don't really know what you're
grime
drinking.
Grime of the ages. You know, true story about this cup. It has never been washed.
I don't think I've watched mine either.
Yeah.
Hey! All right, my friends, that's my roundup of top Amazon gear that I've used over the summer and over my last probably 6 months of backpacking trips. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you found some gear that might be suitable for your backpacking trips. Just one caveat, one note on Amazon, prices fluctuate. So if something that I list or talk about in this video, I can't say exactly that it will be the price that it is when you look at it in the links. But if you want to check out anything, I've got links to all of the gear that I've been using in the description below. So feel free to check those things out. If you've got questions, please hit me up in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric Hanson. I'll see you later.